Steve, it's a veritable cast of thousands out here at the speed stage. We got the palm trees, the sunny blue skies as championship weekend rolls on here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. The fans are starting to roll in. We still have two of NASCAR's three top series still have yet to crown their champion this season, and that will happen this weekend, starting with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series tonight. What a big weekend of racing it is, because it is the last one, and as the signs say out front, it all ends here. Let's take a look at the menu, see what's still coming your way on speed. And there is a lot. Busch practice up next, go or go home, where we concentrate on the cars outside of the top 35 in points and their chances to make it back in before the season is over. Craftsman Truck Series qualifying at 5 could be very crucial when it comes to the championship. Trucks 07, a rivalry renewed at 6:30, and then they take it away with the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series at 7:30 Eastern Time. So all you got to do is set the clicker down next to you on the couch, pull up, and join us for championship weekend here on Speed, because we got you covered door to door and flag to flag. Now, the first NASCAR Nextel Cup Series practice is over. Let's take a look at who was fast, and 7 of the top 10 on the speed chart, well, they are chasers, including your points leader. Jimmie Johnson was 5th fastest in practice. You heard from Bob just a moment ago. They've been adjusting hard on that car because they know they have to finish at least 18th or better, and that would make whatever Jeff Gordon did in that race meaningless, as they will take home their back-to-back second title for that team. So Jimmie Johnson off to a good start, as is teammate Jeff Gordon. He's 4th fastest in the practice at 175.21 miles per hour. Jeff did somewhat concede the championship last week, but we still could see the drive for 5 alive here this weekend. It is definitely mathematically and realistically possible. Jeff Burton, 3rd fastest on the speed chart, 175.46 miles per hour in the 31, yet another chaser. But the 2 top guys on the speed chart are non-chasers looking to make a splash before the season is over. We got Ryan Newman in the 12 and his Dodge, and also Casey Kane in the number 9 car. 6 wins last season, none this season. Got one more shot to get it back into victory lane before the season is over. Let's get you now down inside the garage area, where we have Hermie Sadler and Randy Pemberton roaming the area for us to find some stories. Let's see what Randy has dug up.
Well, I've dug up old school, and I don't think he'll mind us saying that. One sweet career, that is Ricky Rudd. How about this? 906 starts. He battled through 788 consecutive starts. He got the nickname the Iron Man. But this weekend here at Miami Homestead, you'll be making your last start, Ricky. It's going to be sad to see you go, partner.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll miss a lot of the sport. I miss a lot of the fans, and I'll miss all the guys in the garage area. But it's time to go, time to move on. And I guess after 32 years of this, it's time to do something else.
What about memories in this sport, and then put into perspective this chase? I know you're watching it from at least afar. Give us your best memory and talk about the chase real quickly.
Well, I tell you, I'll probably make a lot of guys mad. To me, it's a little bit boring, watching 2 teammates go at it. I mean, they're very, they're the best of the best in the garage area. But something about having 2 teammates within the same organization going for the championship loses a little something to me. But 2 deserving guys, whichever one ends up with it, deserves it. They're, right now, they're the cream of the crop.
Okay, thanks so much. Good luck here this weekend, and we'll see you around a few times at the racetrack.
That's what you wanted to hear, though, is it?
No, good enough. Good enough. Hermie Sadler?
Standing by with Kevin Harvick, a busy guy today. He's down in the Busch Series garage, getting ready to go out on the racetrack to practice his Busch Series car. But Kevin, we talked about the championship, but a lot of guys on the Cup side still got some stuff to race for. You guys won the Daytona 500 and have yet to qualify for the Bud Shootout. Is that anything that's on your mind in qualifying today?
Not really. I think the race is a waste of time myself. So it's one of those things where we normally don't qualify very good, and I guess we showed it this year, but that's not really a big deal to us, and I'd rather take the day off, to tell you the truth.
We'll talk a little bit about the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. You are over on that side of the garage as well. The championship will be settled tonight. Tell us how your trucks are running over there. Kind of exciting. A lot of drama over there in the Truck Series garage.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun with Hornaday and Skinner and all the Camping World guys on my side. Just going to go out and race tonight and see what happens. Obviously, Skinner will probably out-qualify us, and I think we're pretty good in race trim with the 2 and the 33. So we'll see what happens. It should be a lot of fun, though.
It will be a lot of fun. And, JR, this guy's very, very busy running the Nextel Cup car, running the Busch car, running the truck, and his driver, Ron Hornaday, challenging for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship that will be decided tonight on Speed.
Hermie, thanks a lot. Folks having a little bit of technical problems.
Championship week coverage continues from the Homestead-Miami Speedway. The NASCAR Busch Series teams practice now for the Ford 300. Carl Edwards has already laid claim to the 2006 NASCAR Busch Series Championship. This is the final race of the 2007 season. Let's take a look at the Busch Series point standings with just one race to go. See a close battle there for third between Jason Leffler and Kevin Harvick. Harvick, of course, not running all the races, is the defending champion of this series. Mark Martin will, the all-time winningest driver in NASCAR Busch Series competition, will drive that number 5 car for Hendrick Motorsports.
Well, he's ready to go out because he's the first car in line, but I couldn't think, if I was going to run a Busch Series race, a better race car to climb in. This team that Mark will be driving for with the 5 car, they won Phoenix with Kyle Busch. They have 4 wins in 2007. In fact, the last 6 races, 3 wins and 3 second-place finishes.
And look at Mark's record at Homestead, 6 top 5 finishes in his own right.
So what I'm feeling, if you mix all that together,
top 5.
I'd say a great chance at going to Victory Lane tomorrow afternoon.
Now, the other thing is, too, guys, he hadn't won a race all year long.
Good point.
Not
He
truck,
might
not
be
Busch, not anything.
little bit on the hungry side right now. He'd like to probably go out and say, you know what, and I think, Larry, you talked about it in one of our previous broadcasts for the Cup practice. You want to have a great winter, go out with a strong finish at a place like Homestead.
Absolutely, and I guess the biggest thing when I looked at those top 10 Busch Series points, I think we were talking about this last week at Phoenix, most of those guys at the bottom of the top 10, including Greg Biffle, who's going for 4 consecutive Cup wins here at Homestead, a lot of those guys, they have not been to Victory Lane in 2007.
I mentioned that Kevin Harvick is not running the entire schedule, or has not. He is entered in the Ford 300 here. Harvick is slated to drive the 21 car.
And when you mentioned that, there are 21 guys attempting to do the double this weekend. They'll make sure everybody's going to make it, but right now there are 21 entries that are in both the Busch as well as the Nextel Cup ranks. So a lot of guys doing the double duty this weekend.
Matt Kenseth is defending champion of this race, and there is your 2007 Busch Series champion, Carl Edwards.
And your little buddy.
My little buddy is.
Cousin Carl.
As Clint Boyer calls me. Your little buddy.
I think he's got your number, though, Steve.
Yeah. Carl said, that's good. I'm glad he's mad. We got him right where we want him.
Talking about Clint Boyer, right?
Yeah, well, they're Midwestern, you know, dirt track buddies, so they like giving each other a hard time.
Did you watch what Carl was doing right there? Reset his tack, turning all his switches on, getting ready to crank this number 60 car up, bring it to full speed right there, going down the back straightaway.
You know, Carl, just getting to know him the way I have, doing the chases on for the past 2 years, he's not just going to ride around here, even though he has the championship sewed up.
Well, he needs to do something about turning the second half of the year around, because, to be honest with you, you can tell your little buddy, they stink the second half. They may have won the championship, but they definitely did not finish it off in grand fashion.
He finished 7th at Phoenix last week, and I've got to believe Carl Edwards, Pierre Cattell, that entire Roush Fenway organization affiliated with this 60 car, the thing I think that would really make them feel good about putting a period on this championship, because even though they somewhat celebrated in Texas, they will officially celebrate tomorrow afternoon. They would like to pull their car as the only car going to Victory Lane is the winner of the race and the championship.
You're right about that, Larry. We're looking at the back bumper cam of the number 99 car, David Rudiman, who, in my opinion, second half of the year has belonged to David Rudiman, and as far as the Busch Series is concerned. That team has been very strong, getting a win. Again, you're watching the 99. He's looking back at Carl Edwards, and I'm just picking on Carl because I know he can deal with it.
Oh,
but
no, he'd be the first to admit they haven't run well.
He does admit that right there, and I respect him for that, and I know he's working to turn that around. But I think we already got trouble here out of the front straightaway. The 2 car has gotten into the outside wall. He's coming to a rest right past the start-finish line, but pretty heavy damage right there on the 2 car that is driven by Clint Boyer. Yeah.
A lot of damage to the right side.
Yeah, I would say there definitely will be going to a backup car with this 2 car.
Yeah, but there is definitely, Larry, that is definitely a backup car. You can see it right front, definitely knocked, towed out way to the right-hand side right there in the front, plus that body damage right there, quite serious.
This is the car that he finished 4th 2 weeks ago in Texas. Talk about Richard Childress Racing. You mentioned Kevin Harvick. In 2007, 12 Busch Series wins, including 2 by this man here, Clint Boyer.
Clint won at Phoenix and Richmond. He's pulled that number 2 car down to the very end of pit road and took the hard left. On board with Jeff Burton. Greg Biffle the fastest early in this practice. We're under caution as Clint Boyer has hit the wall. The backup car already being unloaded and rolled out for Clint Boyer. Caution is out here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway in NASCAR Busch Series practice. Track workers cleaning up some sheet metal that came off the number 2 car. Watch the top right of your screen.
Jeff, it has the look that either something just broke on that car or right front went down. It did make an abrupt turn to the right there about halfway in the middle of turn 4.
It's almost, Larry, like he was coming through there and the car kind of like, almost like it stepped out, like it got loose, and he went to catch it and it took off. You see all the rubber bouncing off the wall. The marks that were there previously were probably from Kurt Busch or either one of the Craftsman Truck Series, but a lot of damage to the right side of this 2 car. You already saw the backup coming off. And one other thing we need to add here, guys, is that these cars are cars that are going to be raced again next year, so you don't want to lose good race cars. As he comes to the turn right there, Larry, it looks to me almost like the car got loose and went to save it, but he was so high that upper groove was not cleaned off enough that when it jumped sideways, it got in that other grit and dirt up at the top, it just really went off to the wall. So it'd be interesting to catch up with Clint and find out exactly what his take on it was.
Bob Dillner, what's the update?
Well, actually, I did get a chance to speak to Clint Boyer, getting kind of noisy down here as cars go back and forth, but Clint Boyer actually behind us right now, the backup car being unloaded from the trailer, and I caught up with him and I said, hey, Clint, what happened? It looked like something just kind of snapped maybe a tire went down. He goes, I don't know, but whatever it did it fast, as you guys said. So some frustration for Clint Boyer down here, but they are unloading that backup car and getting it prepared to go out on the racetrack during this practice session. Wendy Venturini?
Well, it's been a short practice session for some of these guys. Jeff Burton in the number 29, of course, last weekend was Scott Wimmer's last race in that 29 machine. And right now, they're just trying to work on getting Jeff Burton comfortable in the car. The minute he climbed in, he came over from the Cup garage, got into the Busch car. The mirrors were not where Jeff Burton wanted them. He couldn't see clearly over the rear spoiler, so he was adjusting the mirrors. Then he got out there, made a couple laps, and the helmet hose is what's causing the next problem that Jeff Burton's having. That helmet hose is catching on one of the bars. They're going to have to adjust that as well, but that's what happens when you double duty and you jump from car to car. As you guys know, Jeff Burton just trying to get comfortable right now.
Well, you see his crew chief, Pat Smith, right there on top of the hauler. And the thing about it, I was so confused last Saturday watching the Busch race because there was a lot of confusion about the Owners' Championship. Yeah, the most points that you can get in one race is 195. But the most that you can gain or lose in one race is 161 points. Basically, if this car cranks and takes the green flag on Saturday, this team wins the Owners' Championship. There was a lot of confusion. We all knew this car was going to be here. We all knew it was going to start the race. Therefore, essentially, this team has unofficially locked up the Owners' Championship in the Busch Series this year.
I'm sure I'm glad you cleared that up. It's been
that drove me
entire
crazy.
week.
Jeff Burton, a 4-time winner in the NASCAR Busch Series this year. We love palm trees.
We do.
Glad to be with you here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Last lap to decide it all. Sterling Marlin stays first. Ernie Irvan in second.
And Ernie Irvan passing on this last lap, this last turn.
Into turn 3. Sterling Marlin in front. Ernie Irvan closing ground. Here they come down the stretch for the final time. It is Sterling Marlin in the lead. Down to the inside comes the 28. Coming to the line. Sterling Marlin's going to win it. Ernie Irvan, who left the Morgan McClure ride to go with the 28 team of Robert Yates, is defeated by that team, and Sterling Marlin wins his first Winston Cup victory in the greatest race of them all.
Can you believe you're here?
No, not really. I pace myself. Car run really good. I don't know, gloves. The boys just built a fast car.
And it was a fast car. It was that.
Could you, Larry?
100 hours colors of Larry McReynolds in high definition for the 50th annual Daytona 500.
We will cover it all, nonstop.
You can't make us sleep.
And I'm telling you, those Gatorade Dual 150s, they absolutely can and probably will be the most exciting, nail-biting races of Speedway.
No, they won't. The Craftsman Truck Series will be.
That comes after the Gatorade Duels.
You're both right. You're both right.
Exactly.
You know what's more exciting than that? Another year trackside, baby.
Now that's exciting. Under caution for NASCAR Busch Series practice, Clint Boyer hit the wall. Turn 4, they're still cleaning up the racetrack here.
Steve, you keep using the word,
yes,
the Busch Series, and I couldn't help but think when this practice started, you mentioned the final race of 2007. Well, this will be the final year of Anheuser-Busch covering this series. 26 years of Busch sponsorship. It comes to a close. We'll be moving to the Nationwide Series in 2008. 803 Busch Series races, 19 champions, over $18 million in point fund contributions from that company right there. A lot like Winston and R.J. Reynolds. We're certainly going to miss the Busch Series, the Busch company, but we're certainly open our arms and welcome Nationwide to come on board.
Casey Mears aboard the 24 car. Let's go into the garage with Bob.
And actually, want to talk about a little switcheroo in preparation for 2008. Casey Mears inside the number 24 here. That's the norm, but what's different is Alan Gustafson and the entire 5 team, of course. Casey Mears and Alan are going to partner up on the Cup side, but also on the Busch side. The 5 and the 24 have swapped teams to help prepare themselves for next year. So Alan Gustafson has come over here to the 24 team. The entire 5 Busch team is over here as well. So Casey Mears getting prepped for next year. And guys, take a look at this left rear tire as it has sat here in the garage area. Take a look, low on pressure. They're going to start low and build up. Am I right, boys?
Yeah, they're pretty much going to be on a race run. So I need to go back and somewhat kind of restructure something I said. This would actually be the team that Kyle Busch won Phoenix with, that in the last 6 races has 3 wins and 3 second-place finishes.
Larry, I don't know a whole lot, but man, that left side tire looked awful low for a place like this right here. It looked more like a Martinsville tire than a Homestead tire.
Well, and of course we do know though, Jeff, that you don't want to let the pressures down much in those right side, and the more you can open up the split from left to right, it really helps the car to turn. And it's very rare we would ever see a left rear tire failure of any type.
Matt Kenseth, the defending champion of this event. You saw he has 2 wins on the season, those coming at California and Texas. 23 career Busch Series wins for Matt Kenseth, Wendy.
You know, guys, I wanted to follow up for what we started talking about in Cup practice earlier today, and that being Matt Kenseth losing his crew chief, Robbie Reiser, to become general manager at Roush Fenway. Well, we talked about the possibility of Chip Boland, the team engineer, becoming crew chief, but don't rule out Drew Blinkensterfer, the Busch crew chief for Matt Kenseth over here in this garage area. He spent the entire Cup practice at the 17 Cup car, looking under it, asking questions, observing the team. So what did I do? I asked Drew. I said, what are your plans for next year? He said, he smiled and said, I'm not sure. I said, any chances of you coming over to the Cup car? He said, it's still unknown, but he said, I'm sure Chip Boland will play a large part of it, whatever it is, but don't count out Drew Blinkensterfer for the possibility of a crew chief on the Cup side.
Well, it's pretty obvious that they clicked pretty good. Remember, they finished 2nd at Phoenix last week, and they did it with no power steering. And I tell you, Jeff will definitely, I think, acknowledge what I'm about to say here. There's just no substitute for a driver and a crew chief that's clicking and on the same song page. Why did Rick Hendrick bring Tony Eury Jr. over to be with Dale Earnhardt Jr.? He knows that Tony Eury Jr., he doesn't need Tony Eury Jr. to come over and tell him what springs and shocks to put under their cars. They obviously have that figured out. He needs Tony Eury Jr. to come over there and communicate and make sure that he gets and stays on the same song page with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
I've always said the key thing when you're with a crew chief and a driver combination, you're looking at one that's successful. You're looking at a guy who's a good translator. He's able to take that information, those voice changes, those tones, the body language, and make it make sense to where you can get the car like you need for it to. I mean, being able to get inside that guy's mind is so important, and recognize it when he's having a bad day and make it better. So, I mean, if there's any kind of synergy between these two guys, I think it'd be a great move by Jack Roush to promote from within and bring him over to the upside.
And congratulations as well to Robbie Reiser.
Right, he's earned it.
He's now the general manager. That's a great move for him. It will allow him to be at home a little bit more with his family. He's got young children, and it's something he's been eyeing for a couple of years now.
I was not surprised at all at that announcement. I sat down with Robbie Reiser right before the first chase race at Loudon. He said, Larry, I'm tired. My son plays baseball. I've never watched one of his baseball games. I was not surprised at that move right there.
That's Todd Bodine aboard the 03. He's attempting triple duty here. We documented during Cup practice, though, he is now driving the 4 car for Morgan McClure. They had an engine issue. They didn't make a single lap. But, you know, he'll be going side by side tonight in the truck race.
Now, he'll be up on the wheel tonight, but he'll also, I think, Larry, you got to believe that this lap times that he's putting in right now in this 03 car will help him be able to jump in that 4 car and go out and make a qualifying attempt.
Well, the good thing is we are racing the old current car in Nextel Cup, and yeah, it can be quite a transition to go from these Busch cars to the car tomorrow, but definitely it's a little more relative to our old current car like we're racing the Nextel Cup, because he absolutely, his qualifying run in that 4 car will be his first laps on the racetrack.
Todd Bodine won the truck race here at Homestead-Miami Speedway in 2005, 15th or 16th fastest. The Biff, Greg Biffle is fastest, followed by Dave Blaney, Mark Martin, Kevin Harvick, and Clint Boyer. But Boyer in the wall hard will go to a backup. Greg Biffle getting around this 1.5-mile track, and he's doing so in high style. He's still the quickest in his Ford, and as Larry Mack mentioned earlier, has won 3 consecutive Cup races here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Biffle has led a total of 158 laps in Busch Series competition.
I'm just not sure anyone would have anticipated that we would have 34 Busch Series races under our belt this year, Jeff, and Greg Biffle has not been to victory lane yet.
No, it's been a tough year, I mean, on both sides of the equation. I know he's got to win over the Cup ranks now, but, you know, as far as the Busch Series is concerned, you know, Greg Biffle at one time pretty much owned this series. I mean, he was just so dominant, could pretty much get a win when I think whenever he wanted to, but this year, I mean, they just haven't happened.
Bob Dillner.
But at the same time, Greg Biffle has been running really well on the Cup circuit as of late with a top 5 run at Phoenix last week. But over here on the Busch side, he's actually very happy with this race car. Go figure. He's up at the top of the speed charts and he's smiling. But Greg Biffle has been on the radio asking what everybody else is doing. He's on a qualifying run right now. So he asked, what is the next guys in line? What are they doing? Are they on qualifying runs? Or are they on race setup? So Greg Biffle aware of what his race car is doing, but he wants to be aware of what everybody else is doing in the garage area as well.
He's definitely the fastest cat in the alley right now. He's been out twice. He's run a total of 7 laps. His fast lap was a 31.73. That last lap there was a 32.14.
Yeah, Larry, I think they laid that lap down fairly early as far as their fast lap, but he has been on about a 4-lap run right now, so it looks to me that he's trying to get an idea how the balance is on this race car. I expect him to probably run at least another 4 to 5 laps before he comes in. Now we're taking a look here at Sam Hornish driving the number 12 Kodak car for Penske Racing. A lot like what he did last week at Phoenix, trying to get that valuable seat time so he can possibly help himself out as far as the Cup side is concerned. He was struggling over there. Right now he's 28 during this practice session, so looking for a little bit more speed, but more importantly, looking for that seat time.
Absolutely, be trying to do double duty here this weekend.
2-time winner in the IRL series here at Homestead-Miami.
But you know, we were talking last week with the other guys that was running out there at Phoenix, and he said that a lot of times when you come to a racetrack where you used to running, you got some, you know, thinking the car is going to respond a certain way.
You have to unlearn.
It was Dario Franchitti who made that comment. So you got to unlearn something. So, you know, having that seat time here may not be a plus as far as the open wheel car is concerned.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, if you run a Busch car, an ARCA car, a Cup car, or even a truck at the same racetrack, I think you learn some things. But remember, when those RL cars come here, they run wide open around this place.
Patrick Carpentier in the 19, trying to do double duty as well.
You mean Pat Carpenter?
Pat Carpenter.
Okay.
Ray Evernham said that.
I know
Ray Evernham said that.
And of course, he's going to, giving him his lap times, he's going to run the full Nextel Cup schedule next year, or the Sprint Cup schedule in the number 10 car, and they are planning on him running a partial schedule for the Busch Series or the Nationwide Series. We got some work to do on this Sprint Series and Nationwide Series.
Yes,
don't
we do.
How much is that going to cost us next year?
Well, I don't know. I can handle one change at a time, but that's two at one time.
Better put the big names up on the screen so we don't forget it.
I think the one we better get right is the Sprint Cup.
You got that right.
Carpentier
back to the garage.
made a start here in the kart series when it was basically a flat track. I mean, when this place first opened, it looked like a small Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and they've reconfigured the track twice.
With a lot of millions of dollars.
Yes.
We're hearing that Sam Hornish in the 12 car here. We were talking about him just a little while ago. Maybe scraped the wall.
A little bit maybe on that right
rear. A little battle scar there. Just with these Busch cars, I mean, you are back in the throttle well before the center of the corner, and you're carrying so much speed, and when you get to the exit, because the straightaways flatten out so much, the car just lunges against the outside wall and never fails. Off of 2 and off of 4, we see guys get in trouble.
Top of your screen, Sam Hornish.
Now, that's pretty much been the trouble spot for a lot of guys, including his Nextel Cup teammate, Kurt Busch, earlier in practice.
Kurt Busch right there, he got up there a little too high, right in the center of that turn. And you might say that X marks the spot, and a lot like Kurt Busch, just a little bit of a battle scar. Didn't like he did a lot of damage so far to that number 12 car, which is a good thing. As you'll see the red flag being displayed, I think they're going to check the racetrack out.
Doesn't look like a lot of damage to that 12 car, but we're under caution, so we'll take a break here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Greg Biffle, still the fastest. He's the only one over 170 miles per hour.
Welcome back to NASCAR Busch Series practice here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We talked about the switcheroo here in the Busch Series garage between the Hendrick teams. The 5 team going with the 24 and the 24 with the 5. Well, here's proof positive right here. You see up on the toolbox, you see the 24 of Casey Mears. But if we pan down to the car in this garage stall, you see the number 5 machine with Mark Martin behind the wheel right now. And right now, guys, Mark Martin likes this race car. He says it's a little bit tight getting in, a little loose getting off. It was kind of dragging that side skirt a little bit. But the crew told him, hey, if we can get another 10th out of this machine, we are going to be golden here this weekend. Guys?
Yeah, right now, Mark's been out twice. He's run a total of 12 laps, but he's 3rd quickest in that 5 car at a 31.78. Greg Biffle, the fastest, at a 31.73. So, yeah, another 10th or so, put him golden and sweet.
It really will. So we'll have to kind of get used to saying, instead of being Mr. Busch, he's Mr. Nationwide. But, Steve, a minute ago when we were going off the air, you made a comment about Greg Biffle running over 170 miles an hour around this racetrack. A 1.5 mile racetrack, you know, with this progressive banking from 18 up to 20 degrees. But, Larry, not what you call a lot of banking, especially on the straightaways, to kind of catch you. So you've got to have a car that's really working well to be able to drive off in these turns, maintain that speed through it, and get out on these straightaways and make any kind of speed at all.
Well, honestly, as we ride with Mike Wallace, this is down into turn 1, down to the bottom of the racetrack. Progressive banking, like Jeff talked about, 18 degrees here, up to 20 degrees. You heard how early he picked the throttle up. Right here, the car lunges to the outside wall. It's a fairly symmetrical track. Off into turn 3, turned it down, rolled out of the throttle. Listen, couldn't pick it up. Well before the apex of the corner, but the secret is not have to get back out of it because the car either gets loose or pushes.
Now, you said the apex of the corner. What is the apex of the corner?
The dead middle.
There you go.
Right in the middle.
Mike, down near the white line there. What's the perfect lap here? Do you want to be at the bottom? Do you want to be at the top? What's the best lap?
I think you want to be close to the white line through the center of the turn if at all possible. then try to let the car kind of fade out toward the wall again. You just don't want to choke the speed down. That's the key thing, especially in a Busch car. Smaller carburetor, you got to keep it wound up, so you don't want to be out of the throttle very long at all. So whatever it takes to keep that car rolling through the center, Steve, is really what's important.
Now, one thing we do need to clear up, because I think we had some errors in the top of our show. When we came on the air, it showed the Busch Series points. It showed Mike Wallace 10th in points. Mike Wallace is actually 11th in points. You talk about agendas, he's only 11 points out of 10th behind Matt Kenseth. One agenda, Mike Wallace, yeah, he'd love to get the victory lane, but he wants to get back in the top 10 in points, and he has one more shot tomorrow afternoon. He's actually been in the top 10 in points a lot this season.
Steve, you see right there on the top side, Mike's on the bottom, the momentum that Stephen Light was able to make off that turn because of that. So running high, running to the middle of the turn, a lot of times you carry a lot of momentum off these down these straightaways.
Stephen Light in that 90 car got his first career win earlier this season at Kentucky. That's in a Robert Yates car, but the way I understand it, the Yates team will not run a Busch Series car next season.
Yeah, Stephen comes in here 7th in the Busch Series points. Had a great qualifying run last week at Phoenix. You can see him working the high side of turn 1 and 2. The team, the number has been sold to Germain Motorsports, which is actually where Todd Bodine is. But I think the future of Stephen Light is still unknown, and I cannot make myself believe that someone's not going to grab that young man up, because when you're 7th in the Busch Series points, race as many Nextel Cup guys, that's pretty solid.
7th in the points, but like we talked about earlier, got to win also to go along with that great finish as far as where he is in points. A great young talent, great young man right there. How can he slip through the cracks?
And he's what, 21 years old?
Perfect age.
Perfect.
Right now, he's 19th quickest in this practice session. He's been out 3 times, and he's run 11 laps.
J.J. Yaley in the 1 car. Right now, Yaley is 22nd fastest overall. Greg Biffle still has posted the quickest lap.
Now, he had a pretty good run at Phoenix last week for this James Finch car. He finished 11th, and we're pretty sure this will be his last run in this 1 car, because, again, J.J. Yaley is going to the 96 Hall of Fame. They will be making the move to Toyota like Joe Gibbs Racing. This is a Chevrolet, and I've been told, of course, Mike Wallace and J.J. Yaley drive for James Finch, Phoenix Racing, that James is probably going to go down to 1 full-time Busch Series team in 2008.
Casey Kane looks on.
Fastest in Nextel Cup practice.
And I believe he won a Busch race here a few years ago.
First career win.
The 38. On board with Denny Hamlin as Busch Series practice continues at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Championship coverage also continuing here on Speed.
Denny 8th quickest in his practice session. He's been out twice. He's run a total of 9 laps.
Wendy.
Well, Denny Hamlin's worked on this car with his team. Like you said, twice out there, they've been out there for runs, and right now it's just too tight rolling. He can get down to the bottom, but it will not stay down there, and that's their concern. However, the corners for Denny Hamlin are okay. It's just getting to the bottom there and staying there during this practice session.
You know what came to my mind as I saw that camera shot?
Sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug.
That's pretty much what came to mind. We're thinking a lot alike these days.
Scary. Great season for Denny Hamlin in the Busch Series. 3 wins, 5 pole positions. And actually, Denny was part of a 4th win. Trouble on the racetrack, the number 37 car, driven by John Graham, showing smoke from the right side of that car.
And I would say where there's smoke, there's probably bent sheet metal on the right side. John was 44th quickest, drove for this team back at Phoenix last week.
47 cars have been on the racetrack today.
The way he's coming around, Larry, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe he just knocked the fenders in. Maybe it's a little bit of cosmetic damage, because, again, we've seen, this could be another one of those call me the backup car offer.
They have definitely got some work to do.
Definitely flatten the right front.
This is the first practice for the Busch Series. They'll actually have a rookie practice here shortly where just the rookies get out there for 30 minutes, and then they'll have final practice a little bit later on this afternoon. They actually qualify and race tomorrow. We'll be covering qualifying on speed.
And in case you missed it early in practice, Clinton Boyer hit the wall pretty hard in between turns 3 and 4. He's gone to a backup car.
Very similar look.
I was going to say, though, this is pretty hard. Clint's was real hard.
Yeah.
Bob Dillner.
Hey, guys, you know this is a big weekend here at Homestead, but it's a big weekend for rivalries in college football. Of course, the age-old fight between Michigan and Ohio State. Now, Brad Keselowski is from Michigan, but some of the boys here on the team are from Ohio. So look what they did. They took the Michigan logo, put the X through it, and they came over and took the Buckeye leaf and put stickers of the Buckeye leaf in the big O there. In fact, they even took some of those Buckeye stickers and plopped them right on Brad Keselowski's helmet. So a little rivalry here in the garage area amongst the 88 team as well on a big weekend, both in motorsports and college football.
I was going to say, what Brad Keselowski's the proudest of, regardless of this or this, is this right here is supposed to be announced at 5:30 today that will be the name above that door in 2008. I'm sure he doesn't care about Buckeyes or Wolverines when it comes to that.
You just announced it.
The thing
There's
is,
no more announcements in NASCAR.
Yeah, right.
But the key thing right there, don't forget, maybe Michigan, Ohio State on top of that door, but he's got Navy on the quarter panel, and I bet you a bunch of midshipmen up there ain't going to like it for him pulling for either one of them schools. They better be pulling for the Navy.
I watched the Naval Academy beat Notre Dame.
That's exactly right.
How you like them apples?
Go Navy.
First time in 45 years. Of course, everybody's beating Notre Dame now.
And I think I heard everybody's about beat Maryland, too,
Whoa, whoa, whoa! They beat Boston College last week.
Not to mention the Redskins.
Fear the turtle. That's enough out of you. It's time for the Speed Performance Awards. Voting begins this Monday. Log on to speedtv.com. Choose your category to vote. Keyword is performance. Voting starts Monday. I'm going to vote for the Oops Award.
You know, I was just noticing something that I never had seen here. Look at the 3, 2, 1 getting off into turn 3. Kind of a unique thing for an oval racetrack.
Yeah, especially if you ain't got glasses.
You know, I just wonder, though, are those there for basically when they do this track and road course configuration?
I would say that it's exactly what they're there for.
Cones.
Yeah. That's creative also.
You know what?
High tech.
You know what? I have another theory, and I'm going to have to get to the bottom of this, and I'm sure Karen Mason Cup can help me. But remember, you enter pit road here. Let's see if we can see him as we ride with Mike Wallace.
There's one.
You know what? I almost believe they may have something to do with the pit road commitment line, because you enter the pit road here going into turn 3 on the access road. Maybe I can get to the bottom of all this before we go off.
Well, why don't you walk over to the NASCAR booth?
The only problem you're going to run into, though, guys,
Me and Hammond can handle it.
Karen Mason Cup, who handles a lot of the stuff, along with Mike Phillips up here at the tower, is not here at the moment. She is at her stepson's wedding. He's getting married tomorrow. She'll be back here Sunday.
Well, there's no sense in going over and asking Mike Phillips.
Go ask Phillips. Go ahead. Me and Hammond will hang on. Greg Biffle's still the fastest, followed by Dave Blaney. Mark Martin, 47 career wins for Mark in the NASCAR Busch Series. Kevin Harvick, 4th fastest, and Clinton Boyer. David Reagan is 6th. Mike Bliss in the 22 car, and he is 18th fastest overall.
These guys are pretty competitive week in and week out, it seems like here. We've talked about it many, many times, that since they've cut back to one team over there at Fitz Racing, it's really paid dividends. Mike Bliss has done a really great job in recent weeks right now, I think, you know, being very, very competitive with this 22. Remember last week, he was the fastest in practice at that one point, and actually felt like he had a shot at not only sitting on the pole, but winning a race.
And did a great job in the Truck Series race.
He surely did.
And you and Larry have mentioned that since the Fitz-Bradshaw team, which is now run by just Armando Fitz, that they've downsized, they become more competitive.
Well, they'd be able to focus, you know, make one team competitive instead of trying to run 3 cars and just kind of like be mediocre with all 3. They've definitely got, you know, the Supercuts number 22 on track.
It's really nothing. I mean, in 3 and 4, maybe a little bit. know, it just turned just a little bit better in 3 and 4, but overall, I think it just kind of hurt it. We're just tight center 1 and 2, and then tied off. It just doesn't gain grip up off 2. It just loses front grip as you come up off harder and harder. 3 and 4 is just kind of a little tight, and then actually that bar probably made it just a little snappy on it.
Steve, there's that onboard computer right there. I just let Mike Bliss go ahead and give us some feedback as he came off that racetrack. This is what he was telling his crew chief so that he could be thinking while he's coming down pit road, okay, what does the car feel like here in 1 and 2, there in 3 and 4, car's doing this, car's doing that. The last change they made must have been a sway bar adjustment.
Whoa.
Oh, talk about an adjustment.
He got a little squirrely there, didn't he?
Got a lot squirrely right there. The number 99 car out there being driven by David Rudiman. And again, you know, you wonder, you know, what really happened, you know, with him. Maybe they made an adjustment on his car that he didn't like, but it's interesting to always listen to what the driver is telling the crew chief so that he can start, you know, figuring out what he needs to do.
It's too hairy from the center off on the throttle, you know. All the left rear spring's done has made it worse. You haven't helped it anywhere else to do what it needs to do and just messed up the exit that much worse, you know. It's already free enough to start with from the center off. All we've done is made that worse.
Crew chief, please believe what he's telling you, because that thing jumped out from underneath you big time right there on that late exit right there coming off of turn 2.
I said squirrely, he said hairy.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Look here.
Whoa! You remember the speeds that this is happening at. You know, they're averaging over 170 miles per hour here. It makes me believe that they possibly softened that left rear spring trying to help the car to turn.
Yeah.
And it actually just made it too loose under throttle on the exit.
Got back in there, start boy, got on the right rear. All of a sudden, the left rear will turn loose and lose grip. And watching that, guys, I have to think back to what happened to Clint Boyer. That's almost the way his car looked a minute ago when he came off of turn 4 and he got away from him. He got in the outside wall.
Have you solved the mystery of the cones?
We never want our viewers to go off the air, to go off the air watching us without knowing what's going on. Actually, you're looking at the cones in turn 1 here. Has nothing to do with the road course, has nothing to do with the pit road commitment line. It's basically just a gauge for the drivers as they drive off in the corner, basically almost like putting numbers, 3, 2, 1. Mystery solved.
So what you're telling me is you go down that back straightaway, drive all the way down till you see that last cone, and then drive about 20 more feet and get out of throttle. That's what you're trying to tell me?
We hope that works. And that's what probably will have to work when we come time to qualify.
Or would you say just drive it in there till you see Elvis, then live?
That's what I used to tell Skinner all the time. Just keep digging, buddy.
You got those cones in your neighborhood?
Mine are standing straight up and down.
Dave Blaney has shared that number 10 car with Brian Vickers this year, but right now he is second fastest overall. The only guy quicker than Dave Blaney is Greg Biffle, Wendy.
It's proving to be a good practice session for Dave Blaney, and much like Mike Bliss, he too is also tight on the racetrack. Now they made a track bar adjustment. He was tight all the way through. It helped a little bit, made it a little bit better, but he said it's still snug in the center. He's still waiting on that center. They're making some more adjustments to Dave Blaney next time he comes in. But right now, this has been a successful practice session thus far for Dave Blaney and team.
Yeah, this team, they've actually had a pretty solid year. They run the entire schedule. Not only has he shared this ride with Brian Vickers, but there's been 6 different drivers in this race car this year. And they did get the pole with Dave Blaney, the second race of the season back at Fontana. It was actually Toyota's first Busch pole in the Busch Series.
Well, Bob, what's the update on David Rudiman? He said it was hairy moments ago.
Well, let's just say David's not happy with the race car right now. You guys showed that big save that he made. Well, immediately after that, there were some replays on the big Nextel Vision screen, and they said, hey, David, you just made the big screen with that one. Good job. I said, guys, we got to get the car better. Right now, it seems like it's just not rotating in the center of the corner, but when finally the tires bite, it just breaks free coming up off, and that's what David Rudiman is trying to figure out with his team right now. They're going to make some adjustments at the front end of this car to try to get it a little bit better.
All right, thank you, Bob. Again, moments ago, Jeff, watch how she dances.
Well, to me, he's coming through there, coming through that part of the racetrack. He's got the wheels cut. He's feeding the throttle back to the car, and all of a sudden it's the left rear tire is what he's feeling, kind of like it just releases. And when it does that, the back end kind of slides out. Now you got your hands full. And again, this team right here ought to give him a big attaboy and a thank you, because a lot of times that results in having to pull off a backup car. We've seen that twice so far during this practice.
Jeff Casey Kane, one of 5 drivers who have driven that number 9 car for Gillette Evernham Motorsports this year.
This is the same car he's driving here that he won with at Lowe's back in the spring. But back to David Rudiman, he's a little bit like Clint Boyers in the Nextel Cup. He can't get the first. We know that Carl Edwards has already sold the championship up, and he's 194 points in front of Jason Leffler, who's 3rd. So what can David Rudiman and that group accomplish here? Get the 2nd win of the season. Of course, they won at Memphis a couple of weeks ago.
Finish on that strong note. We keep talking about it. That's the one thing when you leave here, you know, and Larry's already pointed it out, we got about 93 days before we get ready to start again. You want to have that feeling that you finished on a high note, finished strong, because that's something that carries out through that entire shop during the time off period. I mean, it's huge.
Jeff, Jamie McMurray is 11th fastest, struggled a bit in cup practice earlier, but 11th fastest overall here, just behind Bobby Hamilton Jr.
You know, I'm looking right now, and actually all 5 of the Roush Fenway cars and drivers are actually in the top 13. Of course, it's the same guys that run Nextel Cup. We got Biffle first, we've got David Reagan 6th, and then we got McMurray, Edwards, and Kenseth 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Back to Bob.
And guys, all the Roush guys are talking about their cars getting into the corner. In fact, in a break just a little while ago, Jamie McMurray and Matt Kenseth spoke over the radio, and they talked about how far they were driving in. And Matt Kenseth made the comment that a lot of people are driving in like 150 feet further than he actually was. But if he did that, it would just completely upset the car. So Matt Kenseth backed his corner up a little bit, and he was that much better because of it, as was Jamie McMurray. Wendy?
J.J. Yaley is out of his Busch car in the one Mikusuki, and that is because they have scraped the wall. You see the damage on the right-hand side of the car. J.J. Yaley out of the car. They're done for this practice session because they are going to work on banging out the body a little bit. Looks like a little cosmetic damage. Doesn't look like they need the backup, so they're just going to fix this right side and get J.J. out there later on today.
Thank you, Wendy. J.J. Yaley, 22nd fastest overall. And Clint Boyer, boy, good job by his team getting that backup already on the racetrack.
Yes, it is. Again, you know, had that problem right there at the start of practice. You know, he jumped out there really quick and, you know, jumped up in the top 5 and still hanging in there with that other car's time after 1 lap. But again, that car just jumped out from underneath him over there in turn 3 and 4. And he's kind of sneaking up on it right now, Larry. I think he's just kind of like, okay, that bit me the last time. Let's see if I can get out here and get a little rhythm going, run a few laps, see how this car is performing.
But that is a good job by Dan Deringhoff and that entire crew. And, of course, this team, they've run a limited schedule here in 2007, but they've already made the commitment, a lot with the backing of BB&T, to run the full schedule for the championship, again with Clint, as he did the last 2 years, headed toward the Nationwide Series in 2008.
Very good, Larry Mack. You said Nationwide.
I'm gaining on it. I got 93 days to get all that right.
I bet he stands in front of the mirror and rehearses it. How much you want to bet, Steve?
Sprint Cup,
93
Nationwide
days to
Series.
rehearse.
Exactly.
Sprint Cup, Nationwide Series.
You're not right. A.J. Allmendinger side by side for the moment with Mike Wallace in the 7 car. Allmendinger finishing the season out running about 7 Busch Series races for Chip Ganassi Racing. Of course, he drives one of the Red Bull cars in the Cup Series, 25th overall here in Busch Series practice.
And I just feel so much, we've talked about this week in and week out, that it has helped his Cup effort. Maybe not done a lot for the team, but if nothing else, just like last week at Phoenix, qualifying 16th, finishing 13th in this car, if nothing else, it's done a lot for his confidence, especially you go back to last week when he actually missed the Cup show at Phoenix.
Seat time, baby. Just got to have that seat time. Plus, you got to remember, what did his wife tell us, what was it, Sonoma earlier this year? He brought Sexy back to NASCAR.
I thought that was Jeff Hammond.
No.
That was Jeff Hammond that told you that.
I know one thing, Dario Franchitti's bringing Sexy back to NASCAR because Ashley Judd's going to show up next year, his wife.
You're right.
If you're lucky.
What do you mean if I'm lucky?
You're lucky.
She'll be around.
Hey, why don't you get him to come on trackside one day?
Why don't you get
We've been working on that, but just hadn't been coming to fruition. Now, his qualifying in Busch Series this year has been pretty solid. He qualified 3rd at Memphis, 18th at Texas, and the last week at Phoenix qualified in the 8th spot. He was caught up in a wreck in the race, but his qualifying has actually been pretty solid.
And you're right, Jeff. It was Dario who talked about how it's actually easy for him to go to racetracks where he's never raced on before because he has to unlearn his habits from open wheel racing.
Again, no bad habits.
Yep.
I can imagine what it must feel like running around here in one of those open wheel cars at better than 200 miles an hour.
Dario right behind Bobby Hamilton Jr. Bobby is 10th quickest overall. Greg Biffle still the fastest.
And Larry, we've been kind of watching these guys the last few weeks, but it's almost like this 35 car is finally getting on track here toward the end of the year. I mean, they're practicing well, putting together some pretty decent runs during the course of the race. They're just getting stronger as the season comes to a close.
Yeah, he comes in here 6th in the points, and that certainly will help their efforts because I'm hearing that they do not have all their sponsorship deals done for 2008.
Now we have the new, updated, and revised NASCAR Busch Series points. You see Bobby Hamilton Jr. in 6th. Carl Edwards has already clinched the championship. But look at that battle between 3rd and 4th. Jason Leffler is going to try to hold off Kevin Harvick here.
Get him, Jason.
And that will be a big, big deal for that race team because they are absolutely a full-time Busch Series team with a full-time Busch Series driver that does not race in Nextel Cup. So the way I see it, we have put a period on 2 things in this show.
What's that?
We just updated the Busch Series points.
Cones.
And we know exactly what the cones are all about
right.
now. We never want you to go off from watching our programs without knowing all the answers.
Carl Edwards was explaining to me yesterday that one of the things he did this week was get his, let me see if I get this right, his instrument rating to fly a twin-engine aircraft.
He loves flying his airplane, doesn't
he? He also told me that the reason why he's doing all that is he's getting ready to get a new jet.
And he's going to have to take 14 days of classroom to get his...
No. 14 days of flying.
But he also has to go be in a classroom for 5 straight days and then do it again for another at least 5. So
tell me he's going to be a busy man during the off season.
Well, he's going to be a busy man next year because
30, 62. It just makes the front end feel bad, man. I mean, I turn in, it's not scraping as much.
He was excited
it feels
yesterday.
Like I got flat tire, you know, just can't tell what it's going to do. It slides the front end. And then as they get around the corner and start coming off, it's, yeah, it's no good.
Doesn't like it. He was excited yesterday. He said he went out for a run here near the racetrack. And there was some landscaping guys working. And there's canals in this neighborhood near the racetrack. He saw 3 manatees. The maintenance guy said, come over here, look at this.
Wow, right here in the neighborhood.
Saw 3 manatees and an alligator.
And as I was saying, he's going to be a busy man next year because he's actually going to run both full series in 2008 again.
And there's Pierre Cattell on the right, his crew chief. Hey, Pierre, it's no good.
Championship crew chief.
Tony Raines giving the 33 car its final ride of the season for Kevin Harvick Incorporated.
Tony Raines' future in any of the series is pretty much an unknown right now. Of course, he will not be in the 96 car for Hall of Fame, so not sure what Tony's going to be doing next year.
He's 35th overall.
I know there's a lot of drivers, including Tony, that have been, talking and negotiating to a lot of different teams. I mean, I think we've, talked about it in the previous practice session that Todd Bodine is now driving the 4 car in the Nextel Cup ranks where, Ward Burton had been driving for Larry McClure Racing. And I know Tony name has been brought up over there. I mean, there's been a lot of people that have been looking around at what's available out there. And Tony Raines is just one of those talents that is out there right now and available. He's got experience in the Truck Series, Busch Series, as well as the Cup level. So, pretty talented driver right now looking for a ride.
Larry talked about what a great effort it's been for Jason Leffler and that number 38 Great Clips team. Standalone Busch team. Bob Dillner has an update on Leffler.
Yeah, they've been doing a great job this year, especially with that win at ORP. But you know what? Today has been simply a struggle. Jason just came on the radio just a short bit of time ago and said, everything we've done to the car has hurt it today, guys. We got to go back to square one. So that's what this setup is on this car, is square one, back to the basics for Jason Leffler and this team. Just like everybody else in the garage area, really pushy in the middle and loose off.
You know, one of the things we talked about earlier in the show, we only come to this racetrack once a year. This track was not on the testing schedule of the Nextel Cup or the Busch Series. And trust me, this track changes a lot in 12 months when you think about the weather we have here. I think the biggest thing you might try to relate this racetrack, and this is actually the same car that they ran at Kansas, maybe Kansas or Chicagoland, Jeff.
And again, we don't have a lot of racetracks that have this degree of baking either, Larry. I mean, the kind of the progressive stuff. So a lot of little intangibles that can throw you a big curve. We're watching Bobby Labonte in his final run this year for the Dana Harvick number 77. But, you know, going back to what these guys are going through, you have to be on top of that, plus the fact you got to be on top of the racetrack itself. We started out this morning, the racetrack was cool, had a lot of grip, and the further we go in the afternoon, the hotter and the slicker the racetrack will get. Plus the rubber from all these practice sessions from the 3 different series will change this racetrack through this entire day.
Now we're riding with Bobby Labonte in this 77 car, and I know it's backwards, but you see the name Mary there it would be on the right-hand side of his hood. And who that is, it's Mary McNair of Fairhope, Alabama, courtesy of Dollar General. She won $10,000 in a trip for 2 to come here this weekend. But if Bobby Labonte wins this race, Mary McNair will win $1 million. And you know what? Having Bobby Labonte as your man at Homestead-Miami Speedway, not a bad deal.
You know why he talked about that, don't you, Jeff?
She's from Alabama.
Yep.
See, I answered for you.
See how you are? Fairhope, Alabama. Alabama, Alabama.
I thought maybe he's going to get a cut out of it or something.
No. Bob Dillner.
Well, I was listening to you guys in the booth talk about how much this track has changed over the past year, and that can really relate to Carl Edwards with the number 60 team. You heard him on the radio just a short time ago say, hey, the car's just not good. Well, this car is his Charlotte car that he ran so well with until a late wreck. But they came with the same exact setup that they ran second with here last year. So Carl, PK, and the entire team thought they were going to be A-OK. But as you heard, it's been a struggle for Carl this entire practice session.
I just don't hear of a lot of people that are happy with their race car right now. It's hot, it's slick right now. These cars are sliding around, and you're trying to run around here and carry so much speed around this 1.5-mile track.
It's real simple. You've got to be a Marine to drive these cars. You got to adapt, overcome, and improvise.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. Hoo-ah.
Wendy.
That's the same exact thing I'm hearing on my side of the Busch garage. Denny Hamlin just climbed out of his Busch car for this practice session, and he said it's way too loose on entry. Now, he was last 5th on the chart, but he said, that's all we got on this car. I don't know what to do. Crew chief Dave Rogers came over and said, I'll figure something out if I have to. Denny Hamlin also not happy with his car today.
I will guarantee you between this practice and final practice a little bit later on this afternoon, there will be a lot of note sifting.
But you know what? That's kind of like a good, bad scenario. Even though a lot of these guys are not happy with their race car, I would rather at least be in that boat than be in a situation where everybody's happy with their race car, but my race car, you know, my driver. So if everybody's got the same problems, you know it's a common issue, was the racetrack, you know, the tires, whatever, at least you know that.
You know, we make a big deal about these drivers and all the millions of dollars they're racing for, and the fact that Carl's going to fly a jet. Carl told me the first Truck Series race he ever competed in for the Mittler brothers,
right?
His pay, his cut was $1,100. And he said the first thing he did was go to the grocery store. He said, I can buy groceries. I haven't bought groceries in months. I can buy whatever I want in this grocery store.
And don't forget that business card he was passing out many years ago with a picture of himself on it. If you need a driver, I'm your man.
He also snuck into a few tracks, too.
He did.
Yes, he did.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.
Final moments of NASCAR Busch Series practice here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Hope you're enjoying our coverage of Championship Weekend. Don't forget the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will crown their champion tonight. You'll see it beginning at 7:30 here on Speed. Ron Hornaday and Mike Skinner separated by just 29 points. There's Bobby East in the 27 car, and we go to Wendy.
Well, I started this Busch practice session with Jeff Burton, so I feel it's fitting to end with him. Jeff Burton will be 14th on the chart for him in this practice session, talking to crew chief Pat Smith right now on how the changes went. He said it feels like it was a little bit better than we were earlier today in this practice session. They changed front shocks, so they have hit on something. However, crew chief Pat Smith and Jeff, looking over the notes, Pat feels he can find a few more things before happy hour later today. Bob?
Wendy, how ironic. I started with the 2-car of Clint Bowyer talking about how he got into the wall and they had to bring out the backup. Well, you know what? I'm going to end with Clint Bowyer, too. They did get this backup car on the racetrack for 2 runs. The first run was just to shake down the car. The second run was kind of a race-style mode. He's 6th quick on the speed charts, but that was with his primary car. They are now going to take this car and bring it back through the tech procedure for NASCAR so that they can go out in the final practice session here tomorrow and get Clint a little bit faster in this 2 machine.
The key thing right now is those guys have done a great job. We're watching here on the 88 car. He's that nose pinned right down on the ground for young Mr. Keselowski, and see exactly how that thing. You see where they've got it marked, the little black tape. They got little tips that kind of give them an idea how this thing's grinding up. And I mean, right now, Larry, that was right on the back straightaway, just grinding away.
And that definitely, if you can make the car drive good, that's going to be the fastest way around this 1.5-mile racetrack.
Well, he needs to find a little speed. He's 31st right now as this practice gets ready to come to a close. Here's another guy looking for some speed. Young Stephen Wallace in the 66 car. He's 33rd.
And there's the red and the black to end this practice session. We do need to stress that, like the backup car that Clint Bowyer went to, or anyone else that has to go to a backup car, because all this is happening prior to qualifying, they will be able to start this race wherever they qualify.
Dario Franchitti and Brian Patty talking about their race car. Greg Biffle is the fastest overall. David Rudiman referred to his car as hairy. I believe that was a word he used.
Yeah, definitely so. After he got extremely loose over there off of turn 2. But so far, guys, Greg Biffle is all smiles. He's the fastest cat in the holler right now.
Yeah, he's been there since almost the top of practice session. There you see a couple of our Busch Series regulars, non-Nextel Cup boys, Jason Leffler, Bobby Hamilton Jr., 9th and 10th.
And Bobby Labonte can win $1 million for
Mary McNair of Fairhope, Alabama.
Alabama.
I could say Fairhope, Auburn, but it's Fairhope, Alabama.
And Larry also announced that Brad Keselowski will be driving for Dale Earnhardt next year.
And the points are updated, and you know why we have cones on the outside of the fence going into the corner.
Casey Kane right there telling his guys what he needs to get a little bit quicker.
A lot of debriefing going on here.
Yep.
A lot of hand gestures.
Are we going to debrief after this, Steve?
We do need to debrief because we've got trackside coming up later.
Perhaps we will.
Hey, Teddy, we'll be right down there. We'll debrief.
Come on, Teddy.
Come on, Teddy.
We're going to be moving our hands a lot. Thanks for being with us.